I don't agree with a lot of the principles that they advocate, but they seem to understand that, and they are able to trust in principles. But if the progressives are closer, they're stuck with the decision. Do they try to pull conservatives along with them? Or do they move forward from where they are? I mean, they're closer to the future that we don't yet have. They're closer to figuring out a non-authoritarian way to organize, for example. And I think statistically, that's not what they do. They focus on the easy thing. The easy thing is to say, let's pull these conservatives in our direction. Or let's move closer to the conservatives so that we can pull them in our direction. Now, I'm a pragmatist, and I believe in a practical solution, step-by-step iteration. So it does make some sense to me as well that you would try to make the world better in small steps. You don't really know. You can't jump too far into the future because you don't really know. The further into the future that you go with your predictions and what you're trying to make be the case, then, the more it's just merely speculation. And so this is, I think, at the root of why we get frustrated, trying to make everybody else aware. We really still need to make ourselves aware. We need to enlighten ourselves. We need to reorganize our minds. We need to invent new values and then make sure that we have organizations that work with those values. And by organizations, first we have to work with the organization of our own minds. So this is the answer to how we will have an evolution or a revolution that finally works, that stays that way, that isn't just a pendulum swing, that isn't just a new boss in place of an old boss. If we want to change the world in a way where we have a society with a long list of crimes, if we just rip that page off and put it in the history books, we don't want just a blank page for the new crimes to be written by the new oppressors. And the way to solve that problem is to make sure that the way we organize our mind is not oppressive, that we don't oppress our own thoughts, that we don't oppress our own minority opinions that we have inside of us, that we respect our own minority opinions. If we believe something 90%, but 10% we sort of entertain over here, we need to respect that 10% the same way we hope that a population of 10% is going to be respected. Or maybe we're in that social population of 10%. We want it to be respected. We need to work on respecting ourselves. And I don't mean respecting our conclusions. I mean respecting the things that are anathema to us, that we don't want to admit, that we don't want to see, that we don't want to advocate, that we don't want to promote. And we can continue, it's possible to continue to argue against those things, to not promote them, to admit them as faults. We don't have to embrace them, that 10% idea. We can simply admit that as a fault. We don't have to embrace it and say, oh, well, now that'll be the whole idea. No, that's not the point. The point is that we need to organize ourselves in the way that we want the society to be organized. And we have it. We have it. Very, very few people are really true to their beliefs to that degree. People entertain violent fantasies because it's only in their head, and they know that they won't act on them. They know that that's just an idea. They won't act on them. So they entertain them. But if you entertain them, then this is part of what you have in your value system. And that you can entertain them and simultaneously deny them because you say, oh, well, I decided that, I'm basically a peaceful person. By God, I'd really like to kill that guy. Or somebody should punch him in the face. When you entertain it in this self-contradictory way, it's self-defeating. because that is going to be projected into the culture, just as naturally as water flows downhill. So if you want to change that, then you have to change your internal structure, the way you organize your own mind, the way you think about yourself, the way you frame yourself, what you give yourself permission to conceive. And since you can't oppress yourself, you have to give yourself a certain amount of permission to have thoughts that are anathema to the dominant thoughts in your mind. Well, at the same time, working to restructure yourself so that it's not just good enough that you have those thoughts caged and enslaved in your own mind. There has to be some way that they enjoy the same freedom that you believe subgroups of the culture will enjoy them. So in reality, the best thing that you can do, and I believe in standing up politically, and certainly there's a lot of circumstances where you have to. And even in the U.S. right now, where there's prosperity, you have to look at what we're doing in the rest of the world. Or even if you're in a nation that maybe, hypothetically, I don't think there's any such nation, but if you're in a nation that's behaving well, still, there's a lot you can do in the world without going out and trying to make other people a certain way. Just by making yourself a certain way. By reviewing how you treat yourself, how you treat the world around you, how you treat your household. I know a lot of liberals that still want to be benign dictators in their own home. They know that the idea of benign dictators is unacceptable at a social level. But in their family environment, they're willing to do that. And that's not the kind of strength that's going to bring us into a free future. So we have to invent new kinds of strength. We have to invent new ways of thinking and organizing. And I know this to be the case. When I argue that we need ways to organize our power structures besides hierarchy, which is a command and control system, a lot of people, not just conservatives, a lot of liberals and progressives and pacifists and free thinkers think that, well, hey, we need a hierarchy. There has to be power. Well, yes, there has to be power. I mean, the liver has the power to purify your body. The heart has the power to distribute nutrients through the blood. The brain has the power to trigger motion. Those are powers, but they're not hierarchically related. They're peer-to-peer distributed power networks. And that's the way things are going. If you really want to improve the world, you should improve yourself. Improve yourself to embrace the reality that there is no hierarchy. There is only distributed power networks and specialization. So that's my opinion on how we can change and evolve the world in ourselves. Not by making ourselves just better people, because you can make yourself a better person within the hierarchy. Or you can make the world better by being in a hierarchy that is a charitable organization. And that's good. I respect that. But that's not going to make the whole world better, because what we need is a new structure for thinking, a new structure to act as the framework for our behavior. And if we get that new structure, we will find that structure unfolding into the real world, just like we've seen war unfold. And there will be battles, but none of those battles can be won until we've done that. And until we've done that so well that others also have this new framework.